painting is is a vital language in that it's the art of the handmade, and it's evidence of a connection to a much older way of communicating that's still very much alive and well today. Um, I feel like for a painting or for any work of art to sort of live in the world, it needs to be somewhat open-ended, and in order for it to come alive with every new sort of encounter, it has to kind of unpack. At best, the work is a kind of question mark, really. I hope that there's some humor in the work. I try to keep myself amused. I try to sort of preserve ambiguity in everything I do so that there's a mystery. The question goes unanswered. Predominantly on a daily basis, I'm in here and painting in oil on canvas, but I also draw and make watercolors on paper. I also do quite a bit of collage. Collage is pretty much informs a great deal of what I do. I started in general as a photographer. I've been shooting film with film cameras since the 80s back in Texas. The bulk of my film work right now is portraits. I shoot studio portraits in here and just outside in the courtyard. I have an ongoing series of portraits that I've shot since the 1980s of friends, family, writers, musicians, people that I'm inspired by, people that I cold call and ask if I can shoot their portrait. It encompasses a broad group of people, people that you'll never know, and then people that you recognize. Eventually it'll be a book and an exhibit. In Lubbock, Texas in 1982, I met an architect and a photographer who were enormous influence on me. They were both wildly talented, and they both lived for art. The architect's Courtney Matei, and the photographer is Jackie Decker, who's now Jackie Matei. Literally picked me up and pointed me towards art and said that they believed that I could do it. For the most part, I'm self-taught. I started working, I started as a photographer under the tutelage of a good friend who put a camera in my hand and taught me photography. And then from there, I started to experiment with painting. There are two disciplines that often they're like jealous mistresses in terms of who gets the resources and the time. I had been painting for maybe 4 or 5 years and showing my work everywhere I could. In around 1987, I had an exhibit in a bookstore in San Antonio, Texas, and the dean of the San Antonio Art Institute stumbled in, saw my work, got a kick out of it, called me up and offered me a paid scholarship to attend the school for a year. And so for that 1 year, I took a drawing class from a wonderful teacher, sort of Andrew Wyeth-like artist named Carl Embry, drawing class, and then an art history class I studied with a wonderful feminist art historian named Mel McCombie. In general, for my paintings, I have a kind of process that has to do with painting things out. So in other words, I know that the beginning of any given thing will eventually be buried. Initially, this came about from painting over found paintings. Back when I started painting in Austin, Texas in the 80s, it was, there was a treasure trove of canvases in the trash bins of the University of Texas in Austin. In general, I'll paint in one idiom, one iteration. I'll let that dry. I'll come back and either knock that entirely out or paint into it in such a way where I'm burying the sort of skeleton of the beginning of the paintings. It's destructive on the one hand to knock something out, and I've done it with paintings that I have exhibited paintings that are perfectly good paintings, but I feel assured that in that moment when I feel like I can paint with my feet, that I will make a better painting on an existing painting. I hope that doesn't sound like I don't know what I'm doing. It's just that I don't necessarily want to know where I'm going. And in the end, the paintings have a sort of archaeology of there's layers of paintings that are literally represent a compression of months and years of identity that is beneath the skin of the final piece, if it's lucky enough to live on. So whether I'm from Austin, Texas, whether I'm in Austin or in Brooklyn, I'm not really that imposed upon by the culture. Really, what has more of an effect is my immediate surroundings, where I paint, the actual room I paint in, the actual place that I live. Well, for one thing, this big window here was something to respond to. It's cold as shit in here most of the time in the winter. And those are the things more than sort of cultural concerns that I'm painting to, I'm speaking to. For instance, in my last studio here in Brooklyn on the Gowanus, I worked above a laundromat, and they would, there was a kind of a sweatshop laundromat, and they would tear these tags off of the bags, and they would throw them all over the stairs. The big bags of linens would come and go from this building, and as they would tear these like toe tags off, and they would just leave them littering the street and the staircase to our studio. So I collected them and I incorporated them into my work. There's one right there on that. I'm very driven. I'm very willful. I think that I definitely have more will than I have talent in terms of it's like a combination of curiosity and will that make me want to work every day. I have a sort of burning curiosity to see what's going to happen. Like it's like reading a mystery or watching a film. I really want to know what's going to happen next. And I've set up my work life in such a way where it's unpredictable. I try to be literally all over the place for a sense of surprise. My studio is a laboratory of discovery. I feel like there's a little bit of Mary Shelley's idea of Frankenstein, in that if you have those kinds of goals to incarnate something, you're probably going to end up with a monster, and that could be considered to be kind of an ideal. Being an artist and being kind of a show-off, I want everyone to love everything every single time, maybe. But I know that's impossible. And I have been lucky in that people have responded to it. I have wonderful collectors who not only are making the work a part of their life, but are there as sounding boards and advisors. Of course, you can't please everyone. I can't claim to be a popular artist necessarily. I feel successful in that I get to do what I love. I like the idea of delighting people. I mean, I think it's, in some way it's like writing pop songs. You want to do something that makes people dance. You want to move people. One way or another, you want them to feel something.